Okay, today we're going to be working on this piece here, which is the Halloween Party tonight, and it's actually off. I know it's hard to believe because it's running. Weird. It is. It's off. All you watch. Off. The reason it's not turning off is it's not hitting its reset point. This is one of those pieces that you can't power off without potentially damaging it. And the reason is I think it's because Dracula, that's the reason it's here, is Dracula is not moving right. And I bet you the reset is on Dracula. Because I've had this thing running for like 2 minutes. Oh, now it turns off. It's been running for about 2 minutes before I turned on the camera. And I'm wondering if tipping it backwards triggered the reset, because I just had it flat on my bench. So that's what we're working on today. This is how I got it. I know if you look at it, there's this is loose. This is missing. That's missing. It is what it is. She even mentioned that they're missing and don't worry about it. But we need to work on this because the reason it's here is Dracula doesn't want to come out of his little door there. He's kind of shy. Got to get him out of his little hole and let him join the world of trick-or-treaters, which are standing at his doorstep. But other than that, the lights work. Sound works. Most of the motion works. So, and this is hard glued on, so this one doesn't do anything. So it's just the ghost and Drac and the rotating disc. So if this only uses a single motor, which I doubt it does, then we have a disconnect issue here, like a broken gear or slipping belt, something of the nature. I have a funny feeling it's a dual motor, that this one runs here. There's one in here that makes the door work and this, and it's slipping or has a broken gear on the door because the ghost did pop out. Yeah. Oh, yep, there is a second motor. I can see it. Yeah, look at that. I don't really examine them too close when I get them, except for how to take them apart. The ghost is rising. Drac's door is open, but Dracula, he doesn't want to do his thing. So, just turn it off, let it get back to its reset point, and then we'll work on it and see what's going on. Ghost is going in, so it should hopefully get back to its reset point. There we go. Alright, I'll pull out the chair. Disconnect the power so it don't trigger anything. Just take a little examination of the piece. This is a porcelain piece. I can see this front section is glued on from the back, meaning these are two different castings. There's the glue seam, and I bet you there's one right here, which there is. This piece is glued on separate. The bridge, this tower, the chimney. So basically the body structure, actually this has a seam too. So this whole section too, this is glued on. There's a seam right here where this top piece is separate. It's probably separate because it has the light. So it looks like with a lot of heat and some prying, you'll probably be able to take this thing apart into multiple layers depending on your need. There's actually a gap right here in the brick where you could put a pry tool once you get it hot. It's not chipped, it's just a gap. So, since I was able to dig out my foam pad, except I put my spudger and stuff on it, my spudger kit. Let's get the foam pad out because this one's porcelain, more apt to chip. And let's get this process started. So, process has apparently already been started based on the bottom. It's been partially separated. And it's been hot glued back on, it looks like, in some areas. I'm not sure if we'll be able to get this off any better or if it's just going to be torn off and we're going to have to put a new one on. I did end up today, I went to Michael's and looked to see what they had left in Spooky Town. Pretty much own everything I wanted, but I noticed they are out of the self-adhesive foam bases. And the person there is like they've never seen them, which means I wonder if they haven't carried them in a while, because I haven't bought them in like a year or two because I bought a stack. There's two choices. You can get a piece of foam, glue it on, and then cut out the shape, or use the self-adhesive one, stick it on, and then cut out the shape. The self-adhesive is way faster. But they did have the colored self-adhesive ones. They had like these gold and silver sparkly ones, which was weird. They had a rainbow colored one that was rainbow striped. Those would all look kind of strange on a Spooky Town base. Now the only one they had that was self-adhesive there, because I asked them about the foam, these were self-adhesive felt. They had was a green one, which could work in your display if you put a green one on, because if you have a grass display around it, it might look like grass coming up from the edges of the base. But this one's been glued on in pieces. I'm just following their tear line and cutting the glue. And if I can't put it back on, I'll just replace it. So there's their glue. Here we go. And that's the end of it. You can see how jagged it is. And that's fine. The important stuff's exposed. So I'm going to try and flip it so you can see what I'm looking at. Access. Access. This is the access for the rotating part, which... Why is that loose? It shouldn't lift. Hey, look, they're all playing hula hoop at the same time. Yeah, that shouldn't come off. That's weird. Hey, but you can see the motor. The motor's behind the glass mirrors there. See the mirrors? You can see the glue is yellowed. That's right there at the top. The glue's gotten brittle, and when it gets old and brittle, it loses adhesion. That's probably why it came off. So we'll put that back on at the end. But I did notice that with that coming off, you can see the mechanism, so you have an idea what you're looking at, and the motor is a standard SRF 300CA 11,400 RPM. I can see all that, so that's one thing I can tell you. Now this glue here is also separating, so I'm probably going to cut this piece off since it's not adhered anymore. And when we glue everything back together, we'll just put a new glue bead into the gap. This is just, it's not doing anything. Kind of just a waste. And then we'll just scrape off what's stuck on the plastic itself. There we go. Alright, let's start chiseling off the glue for the section we need. I got yellow glue and clear glue, so it's definitely been attempted at one point. I think she said she did, the owner. I looked at the note, it didn't say anything, but that's okay, it just said what was wrong with it. So it's currently going on to the third week of August, and Lemax is on clearance. Did everybody get what they're looking for? Did you spend $1,000? Because holy smokes, they're expensive this year. I saw some people complaining about how they're cheaply made, so they're all plastic. I bet you if they were porcelain and they're animated, the prices would be more than the $180 to $200 on average for those big houses. They'd probably be closer to $300 because of the cost to make them. And plastic is a lot easier to fix. So from a repair standpoint, if yours breaks, you can repair it easier with it being plastic. Look at that. The module comes right out. It's hot glued to the back, right in here. I'll try and tip it a little bit where I can get a good grip. Right there. So we got some slack. We have a metal mechanism. Now I'm going to pop on my old man specs here. We're going to take a look. So this belt's kind of shot, but this belt is The belt controls Drac. This has a clutch. If you watch the Octo Squeeze, any of the videos, whether it's the rebuild video series or the original, it's got the magnetic clutch right here. Like I said, that's probably the coolest or best thing that I think Lemax could do to salvage their gears. You put a clutch in, it prevents anything from binding, from snapping all your teeth. It's not as good as a fuse to save the electronics, but it's something that will at least increase the life, which is a great idea. Why they don't do it all the time, probably costs, but I think they should. So I'm just examining the gears. And that's why I can spin that one, and it doesn't spin the other ones. It's because of that clutch. Love it. This gear is not sitting right. It's got a metal shim or spring on it. Let's see what else. Anything I can see from the back. I don't see anything broken. So, you know what? Let's turn it on. The spinning should still spin sideways without a problem, and this part will work fine because it's no longer inside, so it'll do its vertical lift. Now let's see if I can see where the problem lies. So, plug it in. Turn it on. Yeah, see, spinning isn't really too much affected by it. A little stress on it, but not too bad. Now, of course, this has to go through its whole thing, so none of this is engaged yet. But when it does, I want to watch all these gears, because it could be the clutch. The clutch could have separated, which happened on the first Octo Swing. There's one micro switch up here at the top. I don't see the other one, though. There is only one. That's strange. Looks like, yeah, there's just one micro switch. There we go. Yep, the clutch isn't working. I bet you the clutch separated. That, or we have a broken gear at the bottom that's preventing the clutch from doing its thing. So I'm going to do the cardinal sin that most people don't like, is I'm going to unplug it while it's running, because I need it in the up position so I can get a better look in here. This guillotine style door blocks some of the light where I can see the shafts, because there's shafts all over the place. But this clutch is rotating on the inner gear, not on the outer gear, which indicates there's something binding from the outer gear down. Generally it's a broken gear, but it could be a bad clutch. That was the problem with the first Octo Swing I worked on. The glue that holds the magnets in broke, so the magnet was just spinning. Alright, so how do we want to tackle this? We got 5, 6 screws that hold the side on. I think we'll start with those 6. So first we'll start with this guy here. Let's try and get it closer where you can see it. Need a longer screwdriver or an extension. This kit came with an extension. So there's one here and there's one here. They just hold this bottom base on, but if I want to remove this side, I need to take that screw out too. That screw is different than the other 4 that are holding it on. So I'm going to set her down so I can let gravity help and assist so I don't lose the screws. And I'll use this nifty little bin that comes pre-built into the screwdriver kit. And the centrifugal clutch is covered in black grease that usually indicates that it's slipping, and it's grinding the metal down. And there's 5 screws. I think I said 4. We're gonna find out if I can get this to come apart. The only thing holding it now should just be the dozen shafts from all the gears. Well, apparently the motor wires are really tight, so let's drop the motor. So we're going to remove the belt, and we're going to drop the motor. So the motor's 2 small screws, and of course the belt. Try not to lose the small screws, they're a pain in the butt to replace, but you can occasionally find them. There we go. Alright, guess we're going to have to actually drop the bottom plate. Because it wants to slide out, it's hitting the standoff. So I'm going to drop the plate. I don't want to flex it too much. I could flex out of the way, but because of this thing's age, you have to deal with the brittleness, and there's a chance it might break. So we're going to go ahead and take this off. Also, this will make it easier to clean all that extra glue and junk off the edges. Put that over there. Alright, so we're going to start with this gear here. Didn't appear to be cracked, but this is the most common one to crack, and it looks completely fine. So you can see the black on the centrifugal clutch. Excuse me. So all these drive gears here are working, and when it gets right here, this outer one spins intermittently and it stops. So it could be the clutch is bad, or any one of these gears, or the gears down here. So we're going to start with these, which are more accessible. First, we're going to pull the clutch off. I want to check the magnets. Yeah, the magnet's jumping. The magnet shouldn't have stuck. The magnet's supposed to be adhered or glued inside of that piece, and it's not. So that's problem number 1. That's why we're getting all this black from the magnet's coating is breaking down. So we're going to fix that. That's got to get super clean to get all the grease off of it. Now I'm going to check every other gear in here. It is still binding. So I think the binding is right here. Let's find out. It is. So I can turn these gears if I lift it above this gear. This gear goes all the way under to here, and then it drives a mechanism, a set of gears up inside. Probably a bar gear or whatever you want to call it. I don't know its real name. I know I have one around here somewhere. Anyway, it's a straight bar with teeth on it. The gears ride back and forth on. What it does is it pushes in and out. So we need to open this up. But I don't want to lose all my gears. This also is a magnetic clutch. Interesting. This gear I said had metal inside is a magnetic clutch. So if I stop the door, it slips a little. Interesting. Not the same style as that one though. But to prevent me from losing all my gears, my gear alignments, the whole 9 here, I'm going to pop this cover back on to try and hold all this in place. And just to ensure nothing falls off, we're going to throw a couple screws in it. Like that. I'm going to flip it over. And we got to take out these 4 screws, which are the same as the screws on the other side. Because now we need to get to the mechanism for Drac. Or the vampire. Because I guess Dracula's copyrighted, so I guess they really can't say that. Party. There we go. So there's that. See, and there's the micro switch. It's the singular one that's in here. Here's a good old-fashioned Dracula. And get the door off. Just slides in this track. You can see right there. And now Dracula falls out. So this is what I'm talking about, bar. This slides back and forth. And this set of teeth is a bar gear, or I know there's another name for it, but all the teeth are intact. This also does it on the door. All those teeth are intact. This gear looks okay. So why is this one binding? So let's remove the plate and take a look. I don't see anything broken. I see no chips, no nothing. Oh, it's not square. The screw's loose. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. It might just be catching on the door because it's loose. That works better. Let's put the floor back in first. Everything is so greasy, which is good. It keeps it lubricated, but it's also bad because it gets all over your hands. They did a crappy job of gluing him in. If you look here, you can see the dark glue, so you know it's original. See the square he's supposed to sit on is at an angle, and he's not. It's like that's so weird. Yeah, sometimes the quality, unless they purposely changed it because they found the way they built it originally, it didn't work. I mean, that's also a possibility. All right, let's get this line back up. So it has a couple of grooves it has to fit in. It has an overstop travel, which should mean over travel stop. Well, let's reverse that. It prevents it from going too far in. And I'm sure it has an over travel forward. I didn't see it, I wasn't looking. And let's get the ghost with the most back on the top. And put this back on. So let's fix up that centrifugal clutch and see if the majority of my problem was the angle of Dracula and the issue with the clutch. If that's it. If it's just literally an alignment and a slipping clutch. Any of you out there that drive stick shifts know that slipping clutches are not good. As a matter of fact, it almost looks the same. It creates this black powdery stuff, and it creates a little bit of a mess. And we'll start with this one here. I'm not going to put it completely together. I'm just going to do a couple of tacks to try and hold it square so the gears stay in alignment. This one already popped out. There we go. So I can test it to see if that's the main and only problems. So these should allow this. Oh yeah, see now it freaking works. So I bet you it's because that screw was loose and was cocked at an angle. No binding. It's smooth. Look at that. And all the gears associated to it are moving up to where the clutch would normally be. So beautiful. So technically, if the ghost is all the way up, Dracula should be all the way out. clutch. Back a little. I will have to pause it because when I glue this, it's got to cure, and it can take a little bit of time to cure. But how I fix them, because you can't really replace them, is you got to clean them really good. You can see how much crap is coming off of this. This side you don't have to clean as much because this side's still adhered, still glued into its pocket. But I still like to clean it because I do put a very thin coat of grease on them, because they still have to slip. They do slide on top of each other. I know a car doesn't do that as far as a manual transmission, but you need a little bit of lubrication because this clutch doesn't disengage. It doesn't separate. So, alrighty. We are almost to the point of cleaning this with some alcohol. This clutch face is all chewed up. Just look at there. I don't know if the camera's going to see it or not, but I don't know if you can see the jagged metal sticking up. This thing has been spinning intermittently and jerking long enough to tear up this side, which is good. And the reason being is this thing's shaped like the letter D. You might see the flat sides facing towards the top of the screwdriver. The insert is also shaped like the letter D. You see the flat spots like my pointer finger. I can turn it upside down. So the damaged face can now go in, and the smooth, clean face, which I'll show you on camera here once I get it to the other side. Look at that, nice and shiny. Okay. So, with it having, dual faces, you should be able to do this without a problem. And just to make sure it doesn't pose a problem, let's make sure. Nope, it'll pose a problem because it's a different polarity. That was my only concern. All right, so we're going to have to fix the damaged clutch. Really, really fine sandpaper or a nail file will do just fine to remove the metal from the clutch face or the magnet face. I'm using a screwdriver to help clean out the grease that's in here. This thing needs to be completely clean and sterile, not because we're performing surgery, but because we have to apply glue. Glue is not going to stick very well to the grease. So. There we go. Yeah, it doesn't take much to get the little metal burrs off. We just need to. You don't want to take too much off because it might change the gap, and magnets have a tendency of not liking to be sanded or cut. Cotton swabs and alcohol. I don't know how many of y'all went out and got the Halloween stuff this year, but I'll have to say I'm liking the Michaels Halloween stuff better this year than the previous years. And I'm not talking the Lemax part, I'm talking all of it. They have some really neat stuff this year that, like I took that sign and turned it into an entrance light, that kind of stuff. So, I haven't been able to check out Hobby Lobby or any of those yet. I know the Walgreens by me is getting ready. They started putting some of their stuff out, and some of their stuff looks pretty good. At Home, I think, is one that we used to hit all the time, because they get some weird and big and expensive stuff. Not this kind of stuff I buy, but it's cool to look at. So I know that Michael's is getting ready to switch over to Christmas real soon. Look at that, that's beautiful. Didn't take more than one cotton swab, so I'm surprised. Normally, I would use a 24-hour cure glue, but I found that on these, because they're compressed, meaning they don't open and close, super glue does work too. So I'm going to try the super glue, and I'm going to let it cure, because this stuff takes a little longer to cure for some reason. What's its time frame? 10 to 45 seconds for adhesion. And I was using it on a different piece, and it was taking like 5 minutes to fully cure. And this is brand new. Maybe I got a bad one. Yeah, doesn't give any information on the inside other than different languages and don't drink it. Don't use it for a hair product. So. I like the yellow cap because it has the brush, which means I can do this. I can paint the insides without getting it on the teeth, which technically you could do with the blue top. And I can also paint this on the outsides, where the outside flat and the curved spot retouches the plastic, and just put a very little bit on the outside edge of the flat that has to actually go in. There we go. Let's say it didn't want to go in. It's a nice tight fit with the glue. So I'm going to let it sit for a minute or two. Let's just put this side back on while it's curing. Shouldn't have to open this side again. reach over to my trash can to get this so I can clean this and relubricate it. Might as well do that while we're waiting. That looks okay. Other half is okay. Ugh. Oh. I'm not going to try and pull them apart. A little bit there. I guess I got to. I'll just slide them. I'll just slide them off, just in case you're concerned about the glue not cured yet. And then I put a little dollop, and I'm using the edge of it as a squeegee to coat the surface. So that way we have adhesion. This is called Superlube from superlube.com, super-lube. I bought a whole bunch of it from Mr. Christmas out of Florida. Might as well, you know, help another repair company and creator. So you can buy it from the manufacturer or just go to Mr. Christmas parts and it's on his website. It's what Mr. Christmas uses for their pieces. It's very similar consistency to what Lemax uses, except it's not as runny. It's a little thicker. Alright, so the gears are in. Let's go ahead and drop it back together. See if we can get all the shafts to line up. Get out of there. Screw keeps going in it too far. There we go. Before you tighten it, just make sure all your gear shafts or axle shafts are in their proper placing. That's what I was doing when I tipped it left and right, to make sure they're all in their holes. It is possible to attach this without that, and then they will bind or won't work. Oh, this gear is covered in grease too. Actually, motor. That's what causes them to short out, so I want to definitely clean that off. So, clean that. So this grease that Lemax uses especially, it gets so thin that it goes inside the one open hole, because that one and that one have a screw. That one's open, and it will leak down to threads too, and cause the motor normally to burn out. Sometimes it overamps, where it draws too much power because it's got a partial short. So the unit will turn on, but you don't have any sound or anything. Lights work. And that's actually what happened on the Octo Swing, the one I'm rebuilding. Everything tested fine. I replaced the motor, and everything worked. Because everything was not working right and it was really loud. Other than the circuit board being bad. It was causing the power supply to reset. And that's because it was drawing too many amps. It was going over a half an amp, and these little motors should never draw anywhere remotely close to a half an amp. So for it to pull over a half an amp, that's bad. That's real bad. So yeah, I replaced the motor, but apparently I replaced it with one of the defective ones I pulled out of another unit, because I have a box of them, and apparently somehow when I replaced it, I probably just threw it on the bench. Didn't throw it in the box, and then when I replaced it, when I got it, I just grabbed the motor I already pulled out, because, you know, I didn't follow my own protocol of taking bad motors and tossing them into a little motor box that are defective, because I do send them to a motor recycler every 6 months or so when the box fills up. Probably will replace the belt, but for testing we can use this belt. It does work. It's just a little loose. So I did not put the other screws in yet. I want to test it. So before I do that, I'm just making sure the alignment on all my gears are still good. Well, the centrifugal clutch is slipping, but it's not turning. So is it still bound? No. That's why I want to replace the belt. It's because of that. Let's find out. Also, I plug it back in. It's probably one of the reasons the belt's worn out is the pulleys are out of alignment. They're not square. They're like that. It's an easy fix. Why hasn't it got to the, there we go. Nope. Still not turning. The clutch is definitely doing its thing. It's slipping, but it's not engaging anything. Everything's slipping. So we still have something that's not aligned. Alright, so I readjusted the gears. It looks like the one gear, for some reason, was pinched, but it's in its pocket. I'm also going to put it in its down position so it's in its reset. Let me just make sure all the holes go where they're supposed to go again. It's possible I missed it. There's only like a dozen of them that have to line up. So that one's in, 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 that's in, in, in. Okay, so that's weird. I'm just going to put the two screws back in it to kind of hold the plate on for me, so if I have to turn it up and down or sideways, whatever, it doesn't fall apart. Not that it's really easy to fall apart. What am I doing again? I really need to get rid of that one. work when you get to that point in your... Sure does take a while to get to that part of the display. Come on, fire up. There we go. Door's going up. And Dracula's coming out. So yeah, the one was out of alignment. See, the motor's still going, but yet it's just spinning on the clutch now. So it doesn't know when to stop going in one direction because it only has one micro switch. It's relying fully on the two clutches, the one there and the one there. So that motor spun way longer than it should have, which is probably why I started grinding down that face. And Drac went back inside, and that clutch is now spinning, and this clutch is now engaged. And then once that door has a little nub on it that hits the micro switch, and it tells us it's in the reset position, but the motor's still spinning still. Although it's completely reset. That's the reason it turns off. So, good idea on the clutch, bad idea on its timing. That's some horrible timing. That will definitely prematurely fatigue the clutch. Or excuse me, clutch is, since this one has two. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to pull this pulley out just a little bit so it's... Oh, that's too far. That way it's aligned with the other pulley. So it's not so bad. I went a little too far in both directions. There we go. And now let's see if I have a belt in this half kit here. I probably don't. No, it's the belts. Ah, maybe. Maybe. Yeah. Alright, there we go. Let's make sure the belt's not too tight. If that belt's too tight, I have a weaker belt here. It might be too big. That's way too big. I got lots of belts. That's too big. Oh, it's working. So he's up. Let it run while I put some of these screws back in. Just because the door got kicked at an angle and it was going up. So I want to see if maybe tightening the plate down will take care of its alignment. If not, we'll see what's got the door stuck. Alright, so we got a problem with the door now. First I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of grease in the track. See if that's the problem. I just don't want to keep listening to the same soundtrack over and over and over again. What is causing you to get stuck? Ha! I see what the problem is. Somehow, this is getting in the way. There's an outcropping. I don't know why. No clue what it's there for, but it's catching on it. So I'm going to watch it one more time from the bottom. I'm going to have to disassemble it to possibly fix it, so I'll let it do its thing. So much nicer with that belt being in a straight line and not cocked at an angle. Alright, here we go. Now I can look at the bottom where the outcropping is. It could be just the casting, and maybe there's a little bit of warpage and it's just rubbing. Yeah, I think that's the problem. I think we got a little rubbage going on. Or is it the screws too tight? Let's It's interesting how this works. Because it uses one pulley with two magnetic clutches, it's got interferences. So if Dracula's still outside, there's a piece of plastic that interferes with the bar until he's all the way in, and then that plastic passes and the door starts to close. When it reverses, the door opens, it has an interference bar that prevents Dracula from coming out until it clears the top, and that's why it uses two magnetic clutches and only one micro switch. Micro switch is just so he is recessed, and he is recessed inside when you kill the power. Yeah, this is warped. That's my problem. I can move the door in and out of interference with that plastic. I don't think tightening the screws is going to take the bow out. I'm going to try just to see what happens. So they built this with a lot of interference, and the reason I don't know if you can hear the motor bog down, is because now it's just spinning on the centrifugal clutches, which have more resistance than the gears when they're rotating freely. So if I add a little pressure here to take the bow out, will it open all the way? No. So how can we fix the door issue now? It's this thing right here. This pin goes up and down. This is the interference counter or guide, this pin that sticks out. So when the door goes down, this slides down and it's getting wedged. So I might have to take it apart and re-lubricate it, because this is the interference bar. See, now the door's going down, I can move it, hopefully. But when the door goes up, this doesn't go up smoothly. This is the interference bar. This is what stops Dracula from coming out and lets it know that the door is all the way in the up position. What it does is it locks this lower gear in here, pushes down, and prevents the shaft from turning, which is why the centrifugal clutch does its job. So this is, once this gets to, when this bottom edge gets to right about here, that bar is supposed to go up. If you notice, it's not, but if I push it up, now Drac comes out. So there's an interference issue. The bar is getting wedged. So possibly when I put it together, it got out of alignment when the door came off, or there's grit in there. I didn't lubricate it. As you saw, I only lubricated the door track and the centrifugal clutch and the shaft. So it's very possible that there's just something binding up in that track. So I'm going to turn it off. But I can feel it. It's under tension now because it's all the way down. But when it was halfway between, when this moves, it doesn't move smoothly. And then when you go all the way to the top, the bar kicks at an angle inside the track here. So that's connected to a bar, and the pin sticks out. And when it goes up, the pin goes up and it goes down. But when it gets stuck, if I push the pin up, the bar twists. It does this and then goes up. So there's something in the track. There's another set of tracks in there, not just for the door itself, for the interference bar. This is why we test things out of the unit. Because one, it worked the first time and then it quit working after that. And two, if it's inside, you can't see anything. So you can't diagnose the problem. You can't inspect the unit. All you can do is tear it all back apart again. Because the micro switch isn't engaged, it turns back on. So we can fix that problem easily. Alright, I'll get that out of my way. So this hook right there is what grabs this bar. This bar right behind Drac. This is the interference bar right here. This is the bar that is getting stuck. This bar rides under this bar. This bar doesn't want to come out because of how it's built in. It's not designed to. She feels okay with there's no tension on it. With tension, I can feel it. It sticks right there. Alrighty. I don't see anything underneath it. Somebody chewed up that screw. That screw's all chewed up. Well, the grease in here looks okay, but there's definitely something in it somewhere. So that interference bar moves nice and smooth. See, as I move it, it pulls this one in and out. And then I'm assuming this is just an idler disc, helps keep everything compressed so it can't lift. So it just rotates if necessary, and it keeps these pieces in alignment. And if the door or the ghost smacks it, it rolls. So now it's just this one that's causing the issues, which, like I said, under tension, it has a sticky spot right there, right before it hits the top. And I don't see why. Now this is plastic staked in. There's two plastic rivets at their pins. They stick the cap on and they melt the pins flush. It sucks if you have to take it apart because you have to re-plastic melt it, and you may not have enough material to do it. Then you got to rely on super cleaning it and then gluing it with super glue or a hard resin glue, not hot glue, and then pray it doesn't pop off in the future. Let's see, can I get this bar to pop out? There we go. Let's clean it up. Find out why are we binding. That's a lot smoother now. So, put a little dab will do ya. Less is more. Sounds weird. Less of it gives you more life because it's less likely to pick up garbage and get into things that are important, like the motor. I put the bar in upside down. Nope. Oh, that's right. Alright, is that smooth? Ghost. Might be a timing issue. Maybe I just had the teeth off by a tooth. But the plastic stake did break on this side, so I'm going to try and remelt it. So I don't know if you can see a wobble right there. Yeah, this side broke. I was trying to flex this up so that pin would pop out, and just as it flexed up, I got it to slide, and then that went. So Easiest way to fix the plastic stakes with a soldering iron. Jesus, a soldering iron. Holy crap. You can use a flat one, flat tip, and push on it, or a pinpoint one that you bore a hole in and it makes the material ooze outwards. I am going to use a flat tip, and first thing I'm going to do is get at the temperature and clean the tip off so there's not so much solder on it. And hold that down. Yeah, lovely smell. If you've ever done wood burning, it's the same principle. And what you're doing is you're melting the plastic and then I smear it so that the inner plastic smears with the outer plastic and it bonds. So that way you have a rigid plastic melted piece. It's also referred to as plastic welding, some places call it. To have the door up at its full upright position, let's put Dracula at his full outright position. There we go. Never mind. Guess we'll have to put him in his full in position for it to line up on the overstop pin. Yeah. There we go. Trial and error. A lot of trial and error when you do these things. Just had to line up the axle for the gear into its appropriate hole. And of course it just fell out. There's no screws yet. There we go. Yeah, you can really see the warpage. You see how that's sticking out so far? Yeah, that's crazy. There's some warpage and the other is this pin, this micro switch is shifted. But there we go. So if I let off, it opens a little. It doesn't open a lot. Forgot to put in the idler. Damn it. You guys are probably screaming on your monitors or phones going, you forgot the other piece. All that work to get it lined up. Alright, let's do this again. Lined up. far as assembly and disassembly, this piece is not too terrible. As far as timing and getting everything to be perfect, it's a little bit more of a pain. But I mean, like, you have to take this out to replace that belt or motor, or you don't have to take any of this apart. You can do it with plenty of ease. As you see, they're just two different modules. Now, most likely you won't be that lucky. You'll have a broken gear or a busted clutch, but hopefully it's just a bad motor or a bad belt. You can peel the bottom off as best as you can, or slice it to take out the one module. And the motor is an SRF 300 CA 11,440 RPM motor. Yeah, same thing that they use on most everything. All right. Oh, that's right. It's unplugged. This is taking a while just to fix something relatively simple. Oh, nope, it did it by itself. I didn't even have a chance to touch it when it finally went up. So, we'll let it run a couple of revolutions here and see what it does. There goes Drac. I don't like the fact that the centrifugal clutch is warped. The gears don't spin smoothly, they wobble, kind of like a old record. But there's still enough teeth grabbing that it's doing its job. This clutch isn't warped, but that one is. Some of it could be the fact that the face of the magnet's worn down from constantly slipping. Because remember, without it hitting that switch, this motor never turns off. So eventually the grease is going to wear out and it'll just burn itself up. No, still getting stuck. So the reason that interference bar has a pin top and bottom is because it actually goes through the foot plate of Drac, and until it pushes up, it doesn't release the pin in the bottom. Pretty ingenious. But it keeps getting caught on that pin. So the pin drops into that notch right there. So that notch is where the pin drops in. And I noticed that if this is pushing against the pin, so I'm wondering if my problem wasn't the bar that I was feeling as much as it was getting caught right here. Put a little lubrication on it, see if that fixes it. Might have to sand it. Maybe there's a burr I can't see. Oh, no, I can see a burr once I put on the magnifiers. Razor knife. care of the burr. I don't see anything else. Put a little dab of lubrication in this slot so it's more slick, so that pin was more apt to slide. Very long process for it to go up and down. Oh, it's trying to move it up right now. Doesn't realize it's already up. There we go. Alright, well, I'm going to play with it. Let's figure out what the hell is causing it to stick. Still sticking. I have no idea why. Everything as far as tolerance is good. I'm watching the bars up close. They're traveling like they're supposed to. They're engaging like they're supposed to. It's like it just runs out of oomph as it's going up. So I wonder if it's this centrifugal piece here. It's maybe failing. Because it seems to run out of steam, but that's still spinning. It's just spinning slower. So I'm really wondering if it's a problem with the second centrifugal clutch. Alright, well, instead of wasting more time, since we're already talking almost 90 minutes for this thing, I'm going to go ahead and pause it while I disassemble it and check that other clutch. Maybe the other clutch has got the same problem. Maybe the magnet in this plastic piece is slipping. Which would be the same process. You clean it with alcohol, you glue it back in, you're good to go. So I'm going to take it back apart and see what I can do. And I'm going to get this one out of my way so I quit grabbing it. So, but yeah, I'll be back in a moment with a complete answer on why she's sticking and what the resolution was. I have a funny feeling it's this centrifugal clutch right here is my problem, because when it gets to the top it spins, but it's not spinning as fast, but it's not at the top. It's still got 2 more teeth to go, and I think the resistance of it pulling that pin out of the bottom of the door is too much, and it's too much slippage. So I'm going to take this all back off. You know how to do it. The 5 screws plus the belt and the motor. And I'm going to pull this thing apart and clean it. And if it's loose or it pops out, I'm going to put a drop of super glue in it, let it sit for a couple of minutes, put it all back together, and do another test. So I shall return momentarily. Alright, we're back. So I got it back together. And you'll see here in a second, here comes Drac. Turn the volume down a little bit here. Or off. It was that top centrifugal. When I took it apart, the magnet was no longer glued in. So, same thing, clean it with alcohol, super glued it back together, let it cure, reassembled, and then let it run for a couple of minutes outside. It was working, so I decided to put it back in the bottom, so that way it's assembled. And the only thing I have to do now is put the beauty ring on and then re-adhere the base. So, yeah. Should have just checked that when I had it apart and not play with it so much. I did also remove a glue burr from Dracula. It was rubbing the edge, that hard brown glue. So just in case that was adding a little extra friction. And then where that burr was, I went ahead and polished it real quick and re-lubricated. So the combination of those three things, I cut the glue off the edge right there, that dark stuff that was running down the side, because it just barely rubs the mechanism. Barely, but just a little too much friction can cause a problem. So if you have this piece, and you need to replace belt, motor, pulley, gear, or repair the centrifugal clutch, or even relubricate it. Let's say it's just full of hair and grit and other stuff. Sorry, while I'm talking to you, I am removing all the glue so I can put this back on. It's pretty simple. Once you peel the bottom off, peel out whichever module you need to get out, and then work on it. This one's pretty simple, but if you're having the same problem I was having, now you know if you watch this whole video, instead of fighting with it, clean, relubricate, and glue the gear, or excuse me, the magnet into the gear if that's your problem. I should have checked the other one, and I didn't, and that would have saved 20 minutes on this video as an example. So, but that was it. This one's pretty basic. You have a motor with a belt over there that goes through a small gearbox that runs a large gear that's attached to the bottom of this wheel, and it's really easily accessible once you peel the bottom off as well. I did not only glue in this piece, so that the glue I ripped out of here, I also filled that glue in, so that glue is also done, so there's no gap anymore, and it's nice and solid. So it is technically all done. All I gotta do is put that on and that on. And I'm sure you guys understand how to re-adhere a mat. I don't use the hot glue to do that. I use this. You can use any spray adhesive. I just find that the Gorilla stuff works better. But I use Gorilla spray adhesive. I spray the mat, let it sit for 30 seconds, and then stick it on. I don't spray both sides, so that makes it more of a permanent bond. If you only spray one side, it allows you at least to try and peel it off without tearing it so much if you have to take the bottom back off. Which eventually you will, because I replaced the belt and fixed the two centrifugal clutches, or excuse me, magnetic clutches, but I didn't replace any gears. And over here, we never even touched this side, so eventually something else will fail. That's normal with anything that's mechanical, hydraulic, pneumatic, or electrical. Everything degrades. So, pop this thing back on and let the mat cure. I think you have to let it sit for like half an hour or something like that. It says it's on here somewhere. Eh, 10 minutes. So, let it sit for 10 minutes, and then I'll put it back in this package and get ready to ship it back to its owner. So, that concludes the Lemax, I guess it's called the Halloween Party. It didn't come in a box. It came in just foam piece. If I look it up and find the right name, I'll put the right name in the title, but at the moment, I'm just going to call it the Halloween Party piece. That's the only words that I see on it. Yeah. So, anyhow, thanks for watching. Hope this helped. Till the next one.